Right, I'd like to introduce to you my very good friend and angling buddy, Jim Hepper. For those of you who know Jim, you know what he's all about. For those of you that don't know Jim, I'll enlighten you. I've known Jim for a number of years now, and Jim's been on the circuit a long time, fished with a lot of great anglers, Rod Hutchinson and so on. He was a member of Savay, wasn't you, Jim?
Original member, yeah.
Original member of Savay, very good friends with Rod Hutchinson. And yeah, like I say, for those of you who know Jim, know what he's all about, but let's hear a little bit from Jim, what his life has all been about in the carp fishing world.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Joe.
That's all right, mate.
Yeah, I started when I've caught my first carp at 18 years old. Long time ago,
Yeah.
as you well know. We won't go into exactly how old I am, but I've been around a few years. I think Jesus was still in short pants when I started. Yeah, I caught my first carp, maybe 6 or 7 pounds. I was tench fishing at Clapham Common Ponds, and it's gone on from there. I was 18. I then started, and in those days it was nowhere near as easy as it is now. You couldn't go into a tackle shop and buy your carp kit.
No.
It was all built and made and messed about with, and I visited Alan Brown's shop in Hitchin and got some blanks and some reels and some line, and didn't know what the hell I was doing. But eventually I joined a specimen group, the old days specimen group,
Yep.
where we fished for barbel and carp and chub, but mainly carp. South East Essex specimen group. Great friends, Brian Gold, Dave Henderson, Les Teager, the first man I ever saw with a very, very stiff rod, cast over 100 yards at Beacon Tree Heath, that you know very well.
Yep.
And we went on from there, fishing various little ponds, catching doubles basically, because we didn't have the big fish those days. And it was all very enjoyable, and I loved it. And it's gone on from there. Then I got a very big break in my life when I joined Savay, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Very
How long was you on
fortunate.
Savay for, Jim?
I was on there for probably 4 years until I didn't fall out of love with it. I just think I'd burnt myself out on there. I fished every single rotor. I was working abroad for a week and then coming home and fishing for the week.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I made it happen.
Yeah.
I'd been through my first wife by then. We won't go there either.
No.
I'd fished every single rotor, made some fabulous
How was it
friends.
back in them days on Savay? Was it like the secretive days?
Oh yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Massively. Nobody told anything to anybody. You know.
I do remember the secret days, but not quite as secret as them
was when
days.
the hair first came into play, and that was purely by accident. We found that, although it had been used. I read a book. I think I've told you this before. Like 1600 and something or other, a guy fishing for barbel on the Thames.
Lie.
You know, God knows what but he was using multiple hairs to fish hemp.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where Lenny got the idea from.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
Anyway, that changed the whole thing. We
Yeah.
weren't now fishing for tiny little bites. We were fishing for massive runs, which we still get today. I say nobody. Virtually nobody fishes the hair anymore. We fish baits off the hook, but it's not the hair.
No, not like not like it was invented for.
No, they were 2 inches, 3 inches long.
Yeah.
The idea was to get the bait into the paragonal teeth, and the hook would then be on the lip.
Follow, yeah.
Massive runs. But the good thing about Savay, apart from the carp, was the guys.
Yeah.
Everybody on the Looney Rotor at that time had exactly the same idea.
Yeah.
We'd fish for ourselves. We caught fish under our 10 o'clock cafe, 7 o'clock pub, 10, 11 o'clock sabus, every single night, you know, then party and it was great. And we caught loads of fish, you know.
And enjoyed it.
And thoroughly.
Yeah.
Don't remember much about it, but we certainly enjoyed it. Met some fabulous, Rod, you've mentioned, fabulous guy. Roger Smith, Bob Jones, Dave Woods.
Yep. Proper all the old school boys.
I can't remember. I've got photographs from those days where it's a who's who of carp angling. You know, Bruce Ashby.
What fabulous time to be involved in that sort of fishing, you know.
There will never ever be another period like that.
No.
Never ever. Then from Save we did the French thing.
Yeah.
Me and
Did
Rod.
you go Cassine? You did, didn't you?
We were the first ones down
That's
there.
it. Yeah. I remember you saying that.
Rod phoned me 2 days. We were due on first rota on Save, and he phoned me 2 days before. I was actually, as I said, we'd parted from my first wife by then.
Yeah.
And I was living on Roger Smith's sofa, basically. Rod made a phone call to Roger's place, and he said, "Do you fancy the rota this year, or the first rota?" I said, "Well, of course I do. I'm gagging.
Yeah.
We had the old close season then, you know, and we would have 3 months off, for God's sake."
Yeah.
Of course I was gagging.
Yeah.
He said, "Well," he said, "I've heard of this big expanse of water down in southern France." And anyway, he knew what I did for a living, so he said, "You haven't seen anything. Lake de St. Cassien," I think he mispronounced it. I said, "Where's it near?" He said, "Oh, it's inland from Nice." I know it. 100%.
Yeah.
You just come down the top road and you can see it all in front of you. So I said, "Yeah, I know where it is." He said, "Well, I've heard there's some monsters in there."
And it was totally different back then. There weren't many places to fish in France like it is today, like commercially.
There were none.
No.
There were no carp anglers in France.
No.
Well,
not
when
then.
we went down to Cassien, we saw one guy, and he followed us religiously. He watched us through binoculars every day, because we were catching from the first day.
Yeah.
He watched us all the time. Kermit the carp angler, we called him.
But that was exciting times to go abroad, you know, the unknown.
We drove down in Rod's old, I think it was a Bedford CF van, 45 mile an hour, flat out with the wind behind
How long
you.
did that take?
Well, I used to do it in a truck in about 13 hours. It took us 19 in his old van. And we didn't stop. We went straight there, one hit. And we got there, dark, just into dark, I think it was. And we'd been told about this cafe where you could park up and hire boats and things, Pierre's. And we stopped there and got out and wandered down the South Arm a little bit, and crash. Wow, you know, these are big fish, and lots of them. And we were like 2 kids in a sweet shop.
I can imagine.
You know, I mean, you couldn't imagine the excitement of it. Anyway, we slept outside the van that night. Got eaten alive by the biggest mosquito. Well, you know what I'm like with mosquitoes, yeah? If there's one in the world, the bugger will find me. But these were massive, and anyway, they chewed me to pieces. Got up at, because there was no night fishing.
No.
And we thought, no, we're going to follow the rules, no night fishing. Yeah, that lasted about 3 days. But anyway, we've wandered down the next morning just on first light, and we weren't far from the van really. And you wandered down a little track, and you got to our first sighting of a carp at Cassien. Were two, we didn't know, we'd never seen a 40 pounder. 2 big 40s lying dead on the bank. They'd been catching them out of the boat, and that's what the French did with the carp in those days. So that was our introduction to Cassien carp. Anyway, I chose this little swim. I say little, it was quite big, but this round a peninsula. Rod decided to go round onto the peninsula and fish opposite me. Within, I think it was about 20 minutes, I'd had a fish. It was 30, split tail. In England, you'd have probably reeled it through the rod rings. It wouldn't have. This thing went mental, absolutely mental. There is quite a good, famous picture in one of Rod's books of me standing out, and I think the caption reads, Big Jim gives it the welly." This Spiroflex is bent from there.
Right over.
Mate, I couldn't stop this thing. Anyway, long story.
A very fit carp in a big lake.
They'd never been hooked before.
No.
Yeah, and we baited and we baited and we baited, and as we baited and the more we baited, the more carp came. I think in 3 days I'd had something like 10 bites, losing half of them because of the undergrowth. There was trees, houses, the whole works were down there. Big snags. And then Rod sort of cajoled me after 3 days to come in my swim. And again, an angling moment that you'd never ever forget. His first bite out of my swim, remember? My swim, 50 pounds.
Yeah, what a carp.
Very shallow water going out. I had to wade out to net this thing. We've never seen anything like it. big leather.
I bet it's totally blown away, weren't you?
Pure leather. And I went out with my little 42-inch landing net, and the gob of this thing hit the spreader block, and the gob, you could have got an outspan in there, no problem.
Yeah.
And I shuffled him in, and I sort of looked, and Rod's standing maybe 20 yards behind me, because as I say, very shallow water, and he's saying, how big? No idea, Rod. Come on, you must have some idea. No, mate. Please, is it big? I said, it's fucking enormous. I've never... Anyway, he weighed it out then, threw the rod in the bushes, and weighed it out, and we looked at this thing, and there is a picture, and again in the same book, with this leather. We had no unhooking mats, but we knew that we couldn't lay this beautiful thing down, so we made unhooking mats out of anything. I think we put an old ground sheet over a sleeping bag and laid it on that. And I mean, just wow.
Yeah, that's just like amazing, isn't it?
Wow, and we certainly went and celebrated.
Yeah,
I think about an hour later we were in the bar, and we crawled out of there at about 11 o'clock at night, just buzzing, just absolutely buzzing.
And you think back, like, I'm thinking about you and him doing that, and I'm thinking, Christ, what an experience, what a fish to catch at that time, Well,
we're talking about 81, 82.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
50?
Yeah. There's a huge fish now, let alone back then.
I mean, thinking of Heather the leather, you thought of catching Heather the leather in 580 hectares of water.
Yeah.
In blazing sunshine.
Fantastic.
Nobody else around. Not a soul. Maybe you got the odd pair of tits floating around with a bird on her back. That was all you saw.
Unbelievable.
It was just fabulous.
That's unbelievable.
Fabulous.
Mate. Great times.
Oh,
mate, I know, like, that's just one of many stories and things that you've been up to in your fishing life, but like we'd need about 10 hours to cover all of them, but like maybe skip forward a bit. I mean, you was on Savay, you've done the Cassian bit, and then you sort of steered. How did you get into sort of bounty hunting, as we call it? Like hunting down.
I think probably from seeing that fish.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted some of that.
Yeah. Because you're like me. I like to fish for particular fish, and we call ourselves bounty hunters. I suppose we are in a way. What do you call it? Bounty hunting?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? You call yourself bounty hunter, well, bounty hunters get paid to catch fish.
Exactly.
I don't. But yes, I'm
Personal
always
thing,
after the big fish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's what you get out of your fishing, and I target a fish, and for me that fish is my target on that lake, and I won't leave till I catch it.
No.
And that is my. And then you're already sort of thinking of your next target, and you just move on.
I've only ever failed on one fish, and that was Burfield, just down the road. But that was more not my own choice; it was being bailiffed off the water. Yeah. I think 2.5 springs on there. Had a fabulous time. Yeah, it was a runswater in them days. Probably still is. But I caught loads of fish up to, I think the biggest one was 44, just under 45. And then a certain well-known angler, who would remain nameless, started pulling strokes and doing things, and I got the blame. Now, if I look like this guy, these guys should go Specsavers. I'm totally different. But no, I got the blame. And this particular bailiff, it was CMEX at the time, not as it is now. Yeah. This particular bailiff obviously took a dislike to me. Right. And he was bailiffing me 3-4 times a day.
Yeah. Gets a bit too much.
Especially when you're fishing under your toenails in a lot of circumstances, fishing very margin spots. It got very difficult, and in the end, me being me, tore my ticket out and threw it in his face and said, bye, you won't. Yeah. So that was the only fish, and I do regret not catching that fish. It's
one of them ones, isn't it? That you think...
I mean, it's always an opportunity, but it's still alive, it's still going, it's just been caught, as we know. Big fish. But, again, we'll go back to what we're doing at the moment. I said to you some while ago, I've had 250 commons, I don't need another one. What am I fishing for, Jerry?
50 common.
Another 50 common. Yeah. But that's only because I've seen it in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want it.
Now you want to catch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I need it. I don't just want it. I need it.
He's absolutely obsessed. He has to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mean, even at my age, I do get these obsessional moments, and I think
But don't
about
we
it
all?
continually.
Yeah.
Even when I'm working at weekends, I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as you know.
You've got a lot of time when you're driving to sit there and think about things, haven't you?
Mate, massive.
Yeah.
I mean, I can actually lose track of where the hell I am in the world
Because of the
fishing,
thinking.
thinking
I'm the
about
same
fish.
though. I'll pull out of the fishery but I'm on a session now. When I finish, I'll drive home. For the whole drive home,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, right, next time, what's going to happen next time? And then that thought stays with me throughout my prepping and my weekend at home until I come back again.
I mean, look at Vinatro.
Yeah,
We were like a couple of kids.
yeah,
I mean, I was, well, you know how old, because we had a birthday party there.
yeah.
And you were, not that far behind me, mate. But we were like a couple of kids, weren't we?
Yep.
We used to
Truly.
run round that bloody pond,
Great times when you look back.
I mean, where you are at the moment and where I've just finished, we're the same there.
Yeah.
It's buzz, buzz,
Yeah.
What
And
you
I think
see,
that's what keeps us going, isn't it? Really, it's that buzz.
It's
for
the drug. Yeah,
It is.
It's the carp drug.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
I'll say, like, you're a modest guy. You've caught more 40s than anyone I probably know, and a good head of 50 pounders up to 60.
Yeah, two-tone at 62.
Two-tone.
Yeah, 62.
Which was the British record at the one time, wasn't it? So,
Held the British record, I think, 4 separate times.
Yeah. So you've fished around a lot of top waters and caught a lot of the top fish. Chertsey fish you caught. There's so many different venues that we could talk about.
Yeah.
But like I say, we'd never have time for it.
No.
So we'd just sort of chat on a bit about this bounty hunting, I think, and
Right. Okay.
where we are at the minute, whether you want to talk about this place or not. But I'm fishing just opposite this lake here. Everyone knows where I'm fishing. I'm fishing for
exactly that.
I'm fishing for the baby black that lives in Inglesfield in Reading. It's like when we was down on Vinatro, we fished together, like Jim said. We were like two kids buzzing around the lake, and we made it happen over there. We practically caught everything between us, didn't we?
We did.
We
Everything.
caught everything. And I was fortunate enough to get the Vinny one first, and I moved away. Jim stayed and caught it later, and now on Inglesfield it's reversed. Jim's caught the black and moved on, and I'm still after it.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. But Jim's all of a sudden got this thing about this bleating great big common in here now on Flint, so he's on here, and he won't leave till he nails this one. But I do laugh because he says he don't really want any more £50 commons.
Sorry.
Laugh, yeah. So this is where we're at the moment. The other good thing that's happened is Jim's a part of Mad Baits now, and we're very privileged to have him on board. He's brought a lot of
Silliness.
a lot of silliness. He's brought a lot of experience and a lot of stuff to the company, and it's just great to have him on board and here with us today to chat about what we're talking about and bait, and we should mention a bit about our bait at the moment.
Where can you go wrong with it?
Yeah.
I mean, as I've told Mark, the governor, the man, it's one of the, if not the best, the Asbo. We won't talk about the others because I'm a fish meal man. The Asbo is without a doubt one of the most stunning, but he's shown me the ingredient list. It is second to none. He has shown me how it's made, second to none. The bait man, Nick is his name. Yeah. Mate, what a genius. What a genius.
He's good, isn't he?
What a genius.
They've got a great setup, haven't they?
It's petite, but bijou. Let's call it bijou.
But it works very well.
They are under each other's toes. They're treading on each other. They're pushing each other out.
But it's a fairly big unit.
It is a big unit, but it's full.
Yeah, full.
Come on, it's a fabulous. But the liquids that he's getting now, that he's giving to us to test out,
they are something special.
They are just off the scale.
Yeah.
Since the days of Hutchie.
Yeah. The thing is with Mark, he goes into behind the scenes. He's not an angler like us, but he really goes into what goes into these liquids, and he sources them, and he ends up getting them as good, if not better, than any other liquid out there.
I think he breeds on enthusiasm.
Yeah, he does.
He loves that banter. Give me feedback all the time, right? You know.
And what's funny, like with Mad Baits, because it ain't a top name in the country. A fair few people sort of shun it a bit. Oh, Mad Baits, you know what I mean? But they don't know that he practically rolls bait for every company out there as as it stands anyway. You know, not the big companies, but a lot of the other companies, he rolls all their bait.
Yeah.
A lot of the bait that people are using around the country is rolled by Mad Baits anyway.
Yeah.
And then his own personal Mad Baits like setup and his bait is something special. It really is. I mean, I've been in and around bait companies for a long time, and I know what goes in his bait, and I know that it is what it says on the tin.
But
like,
one
you know?
of the plus points as well is the consistency of
Yeah.
it. Every batch
Yeah.
you get is exactly the same
Exactly
as
the
the
same.
batch before, and the batch you know the next batch is going
Yeah.
to be exactly
You
the
never
same.
get like odd shapes, not
No.
that it matters. You
No.
never get discolouring, you never get a different bait. Sometimes you can get a bait off a company, can't you? And you think,
They
"No, it's
change.
nothing like last time."
And a lot of that is profit based.
Yeah,
You know, they'll cut it.
Yeah.
You know, it'll start out good.
yeah,
Many baits I've used in the past, very, very good on the
Yeah.
outs. You know, we won't mention no names because it could be probably libel action. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, they start out really good,
yeah.
and then
Peter,
a year down the line,
something
we're now
changes,
talking,
doesn't it? It
they,
just
they
changes.
can't make it for the same
No.
profit margin, so they cut,
Mm.
and then they're back on
Yeah.
their profit margin.
And that's one thing I know he never does.
But also, the other point is he doesn't sell at shops,
No.
so he hasn't got to make that
Mm.
initial big
No,
chunk of money,
no.
and allow the shop to make their chunk of money.
Yeah,
So, and I think he treats his, you know, I mean, we're in the fortunate position we don't pay,
no.
but the guys who do pay, he gives them a good deal,
Yeah.
and it's
He's generous, isn't he?
to a fault.
Very
to a
generous.
fault. I mean, when I go down the factory, I call it my rape mission.
Yeah,
You know, I rape him.
Yeah.
You know where the freezer is, mate. Off you
yeah.
go.
Go and help yourself.
Yeah, it's a rape mission, and
Yeah,
I
he
come
is
out
a-
with these armfuls of gear, and he just says, "Off you on your
But
bike."
he loves it though, Jim.
Yeah.
He loves the fact that we're going out and we're using it and we're catching on it. I mean, you know, more or less caught everything out of Inglesfield now.
Yep.
Between us, well, we have.
They eat it.
Yeah,
That's all we need to know, isn't it?
They're
They
eating
eat
it. they're
They're
eating
on
it.
You know,
I mean, you're on here now. How many bites you had?
19 and lost 4.
Ain't bad.
No, considering the top, you know, the next guy down to me is probably on single figures.
Yeah.
So,
it
yeah.
just says something then, doesn't it?
You know,
I mean, we know we don't just use boilies. We use a particle as well, which is kindly knocked up by our mate down in the canteen there.
and very well.
Yeah, very well. But our bait has always been in the spod mix, hasn't it? Always.
Yeah.
We put it in 2 sizes. Give it a nice glug of calamino and a
But
little
as
bit
you
of
know,
powder.
the reason we do that to bring everything to the party.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
anything that's feeding out there is
Yeah.
good. You know,
Mm.
from the smallest little rudd
Yeah,
to the most enormous carp,
Yeah.
everything. I know we decry tension things as being nuisance species, but if they're feeding that crunch factor of the nuts and,
Yeah.
and the particle, carp, sound travels through a football.
Yeah, they can't
They
resist
can't
it.
ignore it. They've
No.
got to come and investigate. You know.
yeah. Well, I fished next door on this swim a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago. I can't remember for what reason I was on here. Why was I on here?
You couldn't get where you wanted to be on Engie.
Okay, so I jumped
Yeah.
on here and we had a bit of a social session.
Yeah.
I went next door. These 2 swims here were absolutely alive with carp. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I never had a bite, and I don't know how, because they was feeding on my
Yeah.
spot and coming up to the surface and bow waving off, like, you know. I thought there's got to be something wrong. I think you'd caught a couple that session. They was like,
Yeah, I
the
had 3
spots were
that
just sheeting up. I mean, never seen anything. I have seen stuff like it, but it's not. It doesn't happen that often, like, you know, where you get spots going and they're just sheeting up every morning, wasn't it?
And we were feeding them.
Yeah, every morning, like, you know. And it happens over there as well, over on Ingie. When the time's right, they get on that bait big time, like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And also, like, what I've liked recently, we're using the hook baits, the skins.
Yeah.
Aren't they good?
Aren't they just?
I can leave them
and
out.
Mark has made a pop-up
Yeah, that matches
literally
perfectly.
balances.
Yeah.
I mean, you
It's
can't ask
been
for it.
hard for me to get a perfectly balanced out snowman for a while, but with the rig we're using and you know, the way it settles down is just perfect, just bang on. And I've left them. Lately I've been baiting a spot, and if I think I get a good drop and I've got enough bait out there, I'm not reeling in, I'm leaving them. I've left them over 2 days, getting on for 3 days, and by doing so I've had bites. Last year I had the longfish out of next door at
Yeah.
8 o'clock the following day in the evening, you know, just out of the blue. That rod had been out there a couple of days, and just the other week I had a take. It'd been out there for a couple of days, and something I like doing if I'm happy with the spots and on here it's a bit different. You've got to feed these on here. There's a lot of carp in here. Over there, I think I like to get my spots prepped up, get a bit of bait on them, and if they're feeding on the spots, I'll redo them each night. But if they're not, I would like to let them come to me. And I've left them out there for nearly 3 days and reeled in, and they are still fishable. Them I could leave them out there a week, I reckon. They'd be all right, you know. They come in, they're just still firm enough to stay on your hair all right, and inside they're still moist and smell good, and they've got like a little coating on them, haven't they?
Yeah.
You said you've checked.
I've dropped one. Yeah, as soon as I got them, I dropped one in and watched what happened. 20 minutes, and it's got a halo of particle, dust, crumb hanging around the bait. You know, and it's just an added attraction. And I'm sure he's up the leakage rate on that as well, so it's actually pinging onto the carp's olfactory system.
Likewise with the pop-ups as well, they're just perfect. I've never used the pop-ups good anywhere.
No, they stay up.
They stay up for days on end, they keep the choddy up for forever.
Yeah.
But each pop-up is individually flavoured and enhanced, but they're a food enhancer. They're not just like a bit of. Some pop-ups nowadays are made full of, like, I don't know what they put in them, like glass. And bloody whatever it is, and I can't imagine in my head that's giving off anything. But Mark's baits have got food enhancers in them, and they feeding triggers basically,
and they still smell the same.
And they still
get them out.
And they're just I can't praise it enough, to be honest, mate.
No, I mean it's the amount of buoyancy in them as well. You know, I mean, I reckon if you stuck a 12 mil under each armpit, you could swim the channel. You know, they're like buoyancy aids. It's unbelievable.
They are good. And I take my hat off to the guy. You know, he's all the time coming out with new bits.
Oh, every time you see them, man, try that. Try that. Wonderful.
And he's got all the, you know, you're talking about liquids. He's got the old school Minamino. His salmon oil, virgin salmon oil's the best I've seen. The calamino, and each bait has its own individual glug, liver glugs. He's got so much, and I'm not just saying it because I'm with Mare Baits. I think a lot of people are missing out. Right, Jim. So we've gone way back to Savay and Cassim with Rod and stuff like that. We've done a little bit about the bait because. Rightly so, you know, we need to talk about it, it's very important. I'd like to just hear, you know, before we run out of time, I'd like to hear another few stories about the old days or particular fish, two-tone maybe, or, I mean, you know, at the time it was the record carp and it needs...
I mean, it's a very important carp in the history of carp. In the history
of carp fishing, so...
Yeah, I mean, anybody has been there and done it, or tried to do it. Unfortunately, some are more successful than others. I was only on there for 4 months, and that's not to bum myself up in any way, shape or form, but I think it was the first or second night I did on there, and again the social scene on Conningbrook was something special. There was a big old guy called Gary Rochester, funny as hell. He was the barbecue master, and every evening we all gathered in Gary Rochester's swim. And we had a barbecue and a few sauces, as you do, and talked basically rubbish. Well, this particular night, as I said, I'd have been there 2 days. It might even have been the first day, I'm not sure. And there was a big old barbecue going on. There was quite a few guys on. Texas Tom was there. I think Cy Bater was there.
Some of the nicknames. Texas Tom.
Texas Tom, yeah. Great old character. Blue was there. Gary Rochester, obviously, because he was on the barbecue duties. Me, and there was a guy there called Student Phil. Now, Student Phil was a bit of a character, let's put it that way. Only a youngish guy, but he reckoned his mobile phone at the time, and this is in the days before the rip, like what we have now, but he reckoned his phone was like the dictionary of big carp anglers.
Right.
You know, he knew everybody. Anyway, I'd had a few, whatever I was drinking at the time, I can't remember. And,
must have been good.
I was getting a little bit loose-lipped, if you like. And this guy, Student Phil, I don't know why he asked me, how long do you think it's going to take you? I said, 4 months.
That's what you said, yeah?
Yeah, 4 months, that's enough. So he said, oh, come on, how can you say that? I said, well, 4 months, you know. Anyway, what did he say? Oh, yeah, Andy Kidd has been on here 12 years and he hasn't caught it yet. I said, Andy's a lovely man, and he's a good friend of mine, don't get me wrong, and I
Yeah.
hate to say anything derogatory to Andy, and I won't. But I said, Andy's not me. Anyway, I went on there on the 1st of April, which was the first day the ticket opened.
Yeah.
I caught it on the 1st of August. Work
To
the sums out.
To the day.
To the day,
Yeah.
I caught it.
Yeah.
And I think Student Phil probably cut his wrists.
Yeah, I would have thought he bloody would have done.
Anyway, but no, the lead up to that capture, they just started cutting through to the back lake, and there was
Right.
a little cut through, and
Yeah.
you could jump across it.
Yeah.
And the month before I caught it, Johnny Mack was on there with
Yeah.
me. Yeah. And Johnny was on the left-hand side of what used to be called the island.
Right.
Yeah. Fishing out towards the Perfume Bay. I was on this little cut through, and I think I'd had Tom's Pet the
Yeah.
morning before, and me and John had a couple of words because I was, doing what I do and pulling a few strokes, and so he sent me
not like
a
you,
snotty.
Jim.
Nah, well, he sent me a snotty little text, and I sort of apologised and said, well, I'm still going to do it. Anyway, the next morning I heard a shout. I heard the run, but I was sort of watching something else at the time, so I didn't take too much notice. But then I heard the shout. He'd had two-tone, yeah.
Right.
So I got, well, I shouldn't say this really, should I? I got my dinghy out the bushes and I rowed across to him, and big slap on the back and blah de blah de blah. We do the photographs. What a stunner! First time I'd ever seen it on the bank, I mean, it's not the
What sort of weight was it there?
64 something,
Monster,
64 2 I think it was, maybe 4, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, if you've never seen two-tone on the bank, remember I have actually caught 70s from Italy.
Yeah.
That was the biggest frame fish
you'd
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was
Colossal, wasn't
just
it?
gross, you can't describe how big it is. Anyway, we did the photographs, all well and good. Johnny went off, and I think his parting shot was your next boy. And thank you very much for that, John. Anyway, a month later, I'd come down, I think I got down on the Monday, and I'd done my normal 3 or 4 circuits, wore myself out. Pete Regan was there, and I hadn't seen Pete since Savay days, basically. Yeah. So we had a big old catch up, and started talking again rubbish, as Pete does. And he's famous for it, taking the piss out of each other as usual. Anyway, I'd wandered off after that, and I'd come down to Joe's Point, and I could see a group of fish over in Mouldy's Corner, just like fins flicking up, not massive shows, just little fins, or big fins, because there were some big fish in there. And I wandered round, and I climbed a tree, which I could still do in those days, Jill.
Yeah.
And I looked down, and there was most of the stock, about 14 fish down there. Yeah. And I could, there's the white tips, and there's the long common, and there's like some of the others. The friendly was there, and I had this thing in my head. Something Jacko had said to me. The big old boy or old girl, we never knew quite what it was, always hung off 30 yards away from the pack. And I thought, well, they've come. I know where they've come from because I watched sort of some fish moving the day before. So I knew they'd come up from Perfume, down past Joe's, past the sedges, into Mouldy. So I'm thinking, now where the hell can I fish that is 30, 40, 50 yards off? No, I'm not even thinking about those. I'm thinking about the one fish. The one fish. And there's a swim called the Sign. And I thought, well, that's far enough away from Mouldy's that I'm not going to disturb those by doing whatever I want to do. I want to fish 2 rods out, sort of in between where I think I want to be and them, to give me an opportunity of maybe catching a straggler off of that, because obviously I hadn't caught a lot of the stock by then. In fact, I never did catch most of the stock out of there because the big old boy came before. Anyway, as I'm looking out towards the island, I see a big scythe of a two-tone had that big peck, about like that long, about a foot and a half long, and I see this scythe come out of the water. I know what you are, Now what do? Do I bait on top of it? No, I'm just going to sling a white pop-up
Yeah.
on a little hingy, and as it
In
went
its
down,
path sort of thing.
as it went down, it went thump. That's it.
That's going to go.
That's one cast, 50
it.
yards. I'm in its zone, you know. Went to bed. Went to bed early that night, I think, because I'd been up a lot, and I was knackered.
Yeah.
And anyway, I went to bed. 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, I woke up. I thought I heard something, but I'm still thinking about this little group of fish. I'm thinking it must have been one of them. But I thought I'd heard a fish move. Slung my legs out of bed, put the kettle on. I don't think the kettle had boiled. Off it went.
Yeah,
The trawlerman,
Simon.
was down in the sedges, and he'd heard the alarm go as well. So his head popped up over the sedges, and I wound into this fish, only 50 yards out, and the immediate thing it did was come up on the surface, scythe out, tail out.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
You know what it is.
Legs to jelly.
Yeah.
I've hooked two-tone. So now I'm thinking, is there any weed about? Is there this? Is there? I mean, all the scenarios are going.
Head,
what can I do? And literally, it behaved like a lamb.
Oh, great! It's
It
nice
came
when it all
straight
comes
in.
like that.
I mean, almost it said, "Where's the net? Let me get in
Let
it."
me get
you
in
know?
there quickly.
Si run down because he saw the scythe as well, and he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, you know what you're attached to, Simon? Don't even remind me. I know what I'm attached to."
Don't need it, do you?
He netted it for me. Went in first time. As I said, it almost said, "I give up." You know,
Yeah.
it swam straight into
Yeah.
the net. No fight, no nothing. And I bounced into the water, fully clothed as usual. Opened the net, and oh my God!
Yeah,
you know,
there you are.
look at it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, just stunning.
Yeah.
Just stunning. I can't think of many better moments in
No.
my angling career
No,
than
no.
seeing that in the net.
Yeah.
I
What weight was that one, Jim? Not that it's important, but
62.8. I mean, I was expecting 60 plus.
Yeah.
You know, Johnny had it the month before at 64.4,
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was. So I'm thinking, no, it's got to be above 60. You know,
Yeah.
and then because you couldn't tell by the size of it, it was just gross.
Huge.
It was enormous. Anyway, we weighed it up 62.8. Photographs, all the guys come down, and Johnny Mack drove all the way across
Did he?
London with a great big
he's
Magnum
like that though,
champagne.
John. I remember
Yeah.
fishing with him before.
Yeah,
And
I mean, he nearly beat me to death with a bear hug, like, you know.
I've fished with him, and he's come round before with wine, red
Yeah.
wine, and a selection of cheeses.
Special friends.
And we've met halfway and had a little drop
Special.
of red and a couple of bits of cheese.
Special friends, and this is the other side of carp feeding that
Yeah,
we
this
haven't
is the
discussed.
side that, yeah.
You know,
I
the
mean,
friends you make along the way.
exactly, and
Yeah.
like all the friends on the bank and along the way are really special, as well as catching all them big fish. And it's been great for Jim to share some of the stories with us today. Hopefully we're going to be doing a few more of variously big commons, and hopefully a nice big black mirror that's going to come along soon,
yeah.
I hope.
That'll be a celebration,
Oh,
boy.
tell me about it. But yeah, me and Jim's fished together a few years now, and we like to say we're still buzzing like we were years ago, and we never lose that, will we?
I can't imagine what I'm going to do when I stop this.
Nah, you ain't going to stop, mate. You ain't
Well,
gonna
something's going to stop me.
No,
Probably
you ain't
God.
going to stop. So it's a big thank you to Jim for letting us talk to him today, and hopefully we'll be chatting to you again soon with the news of a few nice ones on the bank.
That'd be good.
Certainly would.